So, Michael, the Oscars are nearly here, or have been already, shown, depending on what day this is uploaded, hopefully before.
Yes.
And obviously, we made a prediction in our Oscars predictions video. Check it out if you haven't. I don't know. I don't like doing that. Feels
Well, I think the important thing we need to bear in mind is everyone needs to like and subscribe and comment below to let us know what you think about CODA.
And ring that bell.
Yeah, get the bell on. Ding, ding, ding.
But
we should do it more, if anything.
Okay. Basically, you and I both predicted that a certain actor would win the Best Actor award, didn't we?
Yes, we did.
And who was that actor?
It was Brendan Fraser. I was about to say Brendan Gleeson.
Sorry, can you say that name again, please?
Brendan Fraser.
Okay, and how do you spell it?
Brendan.
His last name?
Frasier.
Is that how you spell his last name? Because I'm looking here at the 2023 Oscar predictions video.
Oh, yeah.
And I can see that you have spelt it like that. Brendan Fraser.
Yes,
implying the last syllable
like the TV show.
Is azure. When, in actual fact, if we have a look at Brendan Fraser's name, you will see it is not Brendan Fraser, it is Brendan Fraser. Now, here's the thing. Obviously, he's probably going to win Best Actor. He might not. But the reason why I bring this up is because it's very funny that you did this, because I remember him doing an interview with Adam Sandler when they talk to each other, basically ask each other questions, and he said he hates it when people call him Brendan Fraser because that is not his name, it's Brendan Fraser. I was very careful when saying his name in our Oscar predictions video to call him Brendan Fraser. Because I wanted to be respectful of a man who's, had an incredible comeback, who's probably going to win the Academy Award for Best Actor soon, or already has done, probably. So, I wanted to show my respect to the man, and you just didn't care, did you?
You're right, I didn't. I mean, there's no excuse for the negligence except for that I didn't care. I will say that I am slightly optimistic now. Obviously, we've already had last year's Best Actor got in a bit of a scuffle. Now I'm hoping every single person at the Academy Awards calls him Brendan Fraser, and then he has a meltdown.
You know what? That would be great if it just gets to him and is like, and then he has a meltdown, just starts going off on one, and everybody hates him.
Yeah, it's like, that's not my name. It runs up on stage, starts slapping, just horribly beating people.
So good luck to Brendan Fraser.
Yeah, good luck to Brendan Fraser. I don't want to get slapped. Hello and welcome to Select and Reflect, the movie review podcast where we look at films that have come out in the near and distant past. We give them a couple of watches and evaluate them beyond first impressions. I'm your host Michael, and I'm joined as always by my co-host Luke. And this week we are, in a way, not coming to the end, but let's say coming to the climax of our Oscar extravaganza for this year, where we've been looking at films nominated for the Best Picture. Next week we're going to do an Oscar roundup where we look at some of the films that we just didn't care about. But this week we're looking at a film we are obligated to care about. Best Picture winner, CODA. So Luke, why don't you tell us a thing or two about CODA?
Yes, Michael, like you said, the Oscars are fast approaching or have already approached. So we are looking at last year's winner, which, as you say, is CODA. And here's the thing, this won Best Picture last year. When did you remember, before I told you we were doing it, that it had won Best Picture?
Let me say this, Luke. I was going to get into this in a second, but halfway through this film, I remembered it won Best Picture. Because I was thinking to myself, what film actually won Best Picture? Because we're watching all of these films that have been nominated. What film was it that won Best Picture? And I was like, hold on a minute. The Oscars are soon. Which means I'm probably watching the film that won Best Picture right now. CODA was the film. So literally, it's very funny that you brought that up, because not only did I not remember prior to you telling me, but even after you told me when I was in the middle of the film, I still hadn't quite remembered. Love that for me.
Yeah, I'm not surprised given your memory.
Yes.
And given your just general awareness of things that you didn't realise up until you were watching it. But yeah, this might be the most forgettable Best Picture winner ever.
Yes.
Because, of course, it's a movie that was on Apple Plus, which I don't think is a very popular streaming service. Last year, what does everyone remember? We already referenced it.
Yeah, the Will Smith slap.
Will Smith slapping the shit out of Chris Rock.
We can't call it the slap heard all around the world, considering the nature of the film we're talking about. That would be very exclusionary.
Yeah, that would be quite offensive, really. Yeah. Troy Kotzer had no idea what was going on, did he?
Yeah. It's really funny.
He just witnessed a historic moment, and he's just like, well, what's going on here, lads? What's happening? Yeah, no, that's the thing. Obviously, this movie, I think, was overshadowed by that.
Yes.
Understandably. And I don't think many people watch this movie. This has the potential to be the most irrelevant Best Picture winner of all time.
Of all time, yeah.
Potentially also because this maybe isn't that great a movie, which we'll get into. But yeah. So CODA is a 2021 coming-of-age comedy drama film written and directed by Sean Heder. Or Heder. No, it's not. It's an English-language remake of the 2014 French-Belgian film La Famille Belair.
I think it's a remake.
Yeah, it's a remake. And that is a 2014 French-Belgian coming-of-age comedy drama film directed by Eric Lartigau. And yeah, I imagine it's pretty much the same thing.
Well, yeah, I don't know, because I know there have been like a few like kind of, what's the word I'm looking for, like feel-good foreign films that have been. The other good example is, have you heard about that film The Untouchable, about like this guy who's like quadriplegic, and that's like a French film, and it was remade into an American one, and everyone said it was terrible.
Do you want to hear the slogan for La Famille Belair?
Yeah, I would actually.
Émouvante, épatante, et chantante.
Wow, isn't that what the colours of the French flag stand for? I like how, so aren't they literally called like, it sounds like they're called the family of Bel Air, which I quite like.
Yes, that
is. This is Will Smith's. Oh no, he's everywhere.
Oh yeah, good point. The Bel Air family, yeah. The movie stars Emilia Jones. Where is Emilia Jones from, Michael?
England.
I was just thinking, so for this role, Emilia Jones, she had to have an American accent.
Yes.
She had to be able to sing, and she had to be able to do American Sign Language as well. So this was a very big role for her. She wasn't even nominated for Best Picture.
Best Actress. Yeah. Okay, can I tell you something? Okay, this isn't a slide, but I really need to tell you this. So obviously you probably know that there was famously a deaf contestant on Strictly Come Dancing. Who won? I assume you know that story?
Probably.
Yeah, so deaf contestant on Strictly Come Dancing won. Wow, how incredible. And then next year, aka the Strictly Come Dancing Just Been, they had a dwarf on, and it was like very obviously like the producers are like, hey, we did the deaf thing, what can we do now? And it came up with dwarf. And now for next year they've revealed that one of the contestants is going to be a woman in a wheelchair. And also, and this is the best part, The Sun revealed this news with the headline "Cha-Cha Chair." And everyone was offended by it.
I mean, that, she is it a he or a she? I'm not sure.
It is a she. In fact, every single time they've had a disabled on, it's been a she.
They're in a chair, so I mean, I think it's fair to say.
Oh yeah, like I feel like. Yeah, it was a bit like the woman herself tweeted about it. She was like, this is offensive. I'm more than my chair. Which is like, it's a double, like, first of all, it's dumb because, like, well, even if she's more than her chair, it doesn't mean that it's not a big deal that somebody with a wheelchair is on Strictly Come Dancing.
She's more chair than human.
At this point, there's nothing we can do for her. The chair's taking over.
The chair's taking over her brain. We can't stop it.
I would love that if, like, paraplegic people, it's not like the wheelchair is like an aid or something. Yeah. It's like actually they're slowly turning. Well,
again, everyone
turning
knows,
into chairs.
Everyone knows you're more than your chair. Like, I think everyone can appreciate that.
Yeah,
it's just like it's a pun, and I don't think it's that offensive.
Yeah,
they didn't like it's not like a slur.
Yeah.
that could have been bad. Yeah. But yeah, I'm interested to see how that's going to work. Right. So anyway, we were talking about Emilia Jones, by the way.
Yes.
And how, by the way, she wasn't even nominated for Best Actress, which I think is pretty damn shocking, again, considering all the things she had to do, and she did it very well. I think she should have been nominated for Best Actress, personally. So yeah, I don't know who I'd knock out, but I'm backing her,
Yeah.
You gotta back the Brit, but no, it's not to do with that,
Oh, yeah.
Eugenio Debes also stars in this movie. Troy Kotzer, who was nominated and won for Best Supporting Actor. Ferdia Walsh Pilo, which is a very interesting name.
Yeah.
That doesn't sound like a real name, but it is. That's the guy who plays Miles, by the way.
Oh, okay.
He is Irish as well.
Yes, and apparently he's very sexy.
There's Daniel Durant and Marley Matlin. Remember Marley Matlin? I remember all the jokes that Family Guy used to make at her expense.
Yes, yes, yeah, like how she farts all the time.
And nobody can tell. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that was good. That's how I knew Marley Matlin. Anyway, so this movie was released on August the 13th, 2021 in the United States. It was released at Sundance, or shown at Sundance, almost over 2 years ago in January 2021. So, yeah, this has been a long time coming. I don't know when they filmed this, but yeah, this might have been filmed like 3 years ago. Anyway.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the languages are English and American Sign Language. So,
not English Sign Language.
No. And Michael, can you guess the budget for CODA?
No, I cannot. I don't know. So Marley Matlin. No, okay. No one in this film matters. So the budget was $2 million.
Wow. So your disrespect to the deaf community and deaf actors
has
and
really
actresses
screwed me over.
Has really screwed you over because the budget is actually $10 million.
Yeah.
So
okay.
that is a mark against you. You went less than half.
And a moral mark against me too.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, I mean, I suppose, I don't know. Having said that, I guess like the thing is I said 2 million. I don't really know, like, it'll be interesting to compare this to, similar films in terms of not having like huge actors in it and, obviously not having any kind of necessary special effects.
Mm-hmm. Okay, what about the box office? How much did this make?
Well, no one cared about this film because it had deaf people in it. But I know, I don't think this film made very much. Like, surely it's one of those weird ones, right? So, I don't know. Why not say 2 million again?
You know what? That's spot on.
Really?
Yeah.
Great stuff.
It made 2 million at the box office, so wow. I was thinking that. I was like, oh, if only he said that for the box office, but you did, so well done. And yeah, obviously this movie was sold to Apple TV as well. It had to be released at the box office to qualify for the Academy Awards.
Oh, yeah.
So it raked in that 2 million because of that. Have a guess, by the way. I won't give a mark if you're wrong. How much Apple bought this for?
That's a weird one.
It wasn't produced by Apple, by the way.
So they bought it, that's, I don't know, like for 1.5 million.
No, they bought it for 25 million.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a pretty big... So they made... Wow, that's not bad.
And like, by the way, again, it says production companies here, and one of them is Apple Original Films, which is very funny.
Yeah.
They did not make this. But I guess because it's first shown on their platform, they can say it's an Apple original, rather than first being shown.
I mean, really, if we're getting into the weeds of capitalism, does any company ever make anything?
Good point.
Am I right, ladies? I think you'll find it's the workers who make it.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think, obviously, technically, my big gripe is they didn't fund it,
No, yeah, exactly, yeah. So, like, they literally, there was, like, no involvement in it at all, just buying it after the fact.
They bought it after the film had been finished. So, I don't think you can really count that, but whatever. They are the distributor,
yes.
if that makes sense. But yeah, whatever. They can call it an Apple original. We know it's not. But anyway, yes. Michael, first, before I will ask you, did you like CODA? Can you tell me what CODA stands for? Because, of course, it is an acronym.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. It stands for crap, deaf, arg. So what people say when they find out they're deaf, they go, crap, deaf, arg.
Well, the D does stand for death.
Really? Okay. Oh, wait, I think you've told me this before, actually. Like, I genuinely think you've actually told me it before. Something on
It refers
deaf.
to the main character.
Oh, child of deaf. Is it like child of deaf adults?
Yeah, well done.
Yes.
Pretty simple to work out. Yeah, child of deaf adults. So well done, Michael. You nailed it. Yeah. So tell me, did you like this movie?
Okay, well, I will say a thing or two. When I was going into this film, I kind of assumed it would be like a little bit of an artsy film, just because I was like, like at least kind of like on the Sound of Metal kind of level. I was thinking of Sound of Metal. I was thinking, it's one of Best Picture. It's probably going to have some kind of arty element to it. And then I was watching it, and I slowly began to realize, hold on a minute, this is just like a completely generic, like family-friendly, feel-good film. And I was like comparing it in my head to like a film that like you would see like a supermarket and like the bargain bin. Like we got this movie for £1 called On a Clear Day, and it's like this feel good story about this guy who tries to swim across the English Channel, and it's got like all just like B and C list actors in it, and like it's literally everything about it is 100% predictable, and all the conflict is contrived. And there's also a subplot about a lady trying to learn to ride a bus. And I was thinking this feels like that, and indeed I did find that a lot of the emotional moments seemed quite kind of predictable and formulaic. And actually, I wrote this, and this was when I'd just seen the film, and it was maybe when I was feeling a little bit like I'd wasted a considerable amount of my time. It was probably the most negative I could have made my appraisal. CODA sure is a predictable, cliched sludge of emotionally inchoate tripe. That's what I said, which was admittedly quite aggressive, and I don't hate the movie that much, but I did think to myself, this does literally just feel like, you said it was forgettable. It feels like just such a generic kind of feel-good movie. Like there is nothing challenging about it, or like nothing. Like when I'm watching like a film, it's a best picture. I want it to impact me on a deep level.
No, I get you. I completely get you. That's what I was thinking. This is the best picture, really? And you compare it again to something which we reviewed a couple of weeks ago, which was The Power of the Dog.
Yeah.
And that really had some deep themes, and it really made you think. And that was a movie which we thought would win Best Picture, but apparently
the Academy knows best.
Yeah, because people in the Academy didn't like the fact that, they didn't like the concept of gay cowboys. They didn't like it back in 2005.
Yeah.
And they didn't like it then. So they just went for an inoffensive movie like CODA. And I think you, Michael, would agree with the Hollywood Reporter's John Frosch, who opined CODA faithfully works its way through a checklist of tropes from high school comedies, disability dramas, musical prodigy, and inspiring teaching narratives, coming-of-age tales about young people struggling to declare independence from overbearing families, and indie chronicles of blue-collar America.
Yeah. This film, that's a good explanation or description.
Anne Hornaday of the Washington Post called it an old-fashioned movie that adheres to admittedly familiar principles of storytelling and emotional stakes. And she praises the cast and the atmosphere. But that's the thing, it's an old-fashioned movie. Well, that's the thing, when you say something's like an old-fashioned movie, a kind way to say it is that it's old-fashioned. A cynical way to say it is, this has been done a million times before.
Yeah, derivative.
This is yes, it's derivative. It's old-fashioned because we've seen it before, and there's nothing that interesting about seeing it again.
There were a few moments where I was actually like, obviously I mentioned that I forgot that this film was even nominated for Best Picture and had a moment of suddenly realizing that. But there were a few moments where I was like, my mouth was agape at the fact that this is genuinely what they were doing. Like when you first work out that you've got this like kind of eccentric artistic genius who's going to be a mentor for the main character, I was like, sorry, I know this is a podcast, so me opening my mouth agape doesn't communicate it, but there we go. That's what I did. My mouth was just like, what?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, and you make a good point. Like, we can slander this movie as much as possible because, they can't hear us, the deaf people.
That is a good, yeah.
Yeah, so, we can just tear this movie and but seriously, like, there are some moments where I appreciate it, where I think, okay, this is more than the cliches, and we'll get to those moments, and those moments are really good, and I really appreciated those moments. It's like not all like just conventional tripe, as you called it, or whatever, but there is a lot of that, and it is astounding to me that you can look at this movie and think, oh yeah, that right there is the best picture of 2021. It was 2021. Yes. Of all the movies that came out, this is the best one. Like, I think it's it's fine, like it's inoffensive and it's nice. That's a charitable way to view it.
Yeah,
you could be more cynical, like you were, but whatever, whichever way you look at it, there's no way you can say that's the best movie of 2021, can you?
No, absolutely. I feel like it might even be. Obviously, we're gonna have a massive roundup, but I think based on the films we've seen so far, this is probably the worst of them.
Well, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see.
We'll see what whether or not talking about it airs out some of our grievances.
Mm-hmm. So in about a week's time, we'll go through all the other Oscar movies from last year, all 4 that we haven't seen, and then we'll do a ranking at the end. But I think it's fair to say CODA will not be top. Indeed, it's probably going to be The Power of the Dog, which should have won, really. And we thought it would win, and it should have. Yeah. But anyway, Michael, let's get into nitpicks. How many do you have?
I've got 2.
Yeah, I've got 1 nitpick and a nitpick. So you go first.
This is really a nitpick on me, actually. The whole time, I thought they were misspelling Berkeley in the subtitles.
Oh, you're such an idiot.
There we go. So, like, obviously the subtitles say Berkeley with a double E, and I'm like, well, I've heard of, like, Berkeley, like the famous university. So obviously they're talking about Berkeley.
When they were referencing Boston, did you not twig?
That was when I started to get confused, see, and I was like, hold on a minute. I'm pretty sure Berkeley is in California.
Yeah, it's in Oakland, yeah.
Yes, and then when they were actually outside the sign, I was like, oh, I see. Well, I guess people from Boston aren't so smart. They were like, wait, I was going to try and do a Boston accent. Never mind. Let's just pretend I can do a Boston accent. They were like, oh, what should we call this place? Let's call it Berkeley, so people will think we're really smart, but then they can't spell it properly.
Hey, Mac.
Berkeley.
What do you think we should call this place?
I think Berkeley.
Berkeley.
Like in California.
Good job. Let's go to Duncan. No, because
let's go to Duncan.
That's the only thing they do.
Go Sox.
Right. Yeah, go Sox. I think that is a good. Well, that's not a nitpick, is it?
I know. I wrote it down. I feel like a lot of the time my nitpicks aren't nitpicks. I did have one which I was thinking could be a I'll say this one's a nitpick. Why not? It could be more of a criticism of the film. I just wrote that it was very contrived that when they're doing the news thing. Let's say it wasn't a nitpick. Okay, never mind, everybody.
Oh yeah, that's not a nitpick at all, because that is one of my problems in terms of just this movie just being very blatant and predictable, and just it's like a sitcom moment, that moment, honestly, which we'll get to that moment later. So my nitpick is Ruby says she talked weird when she first started school. Now, because obviously her parents are deaf, so that would make sense.
But she is, after all, a child of deaf parents.
Adults. It's not
CODA.
Yeah, it's CODA. Come on, it's a much better acronym. But obviously she says, when she first started high school, well, she says school, she couldn't talk properly. But I have to think that must be like elementary school.
Yeah.
And so it's weird that kids would still remember that from like 12 years ago.
That's a good point.
Because there's no chance she started middle school or high school
talking weird.
Yeah, and she couldn't talk. Like, she would have talked with other kids, her teachers. She would have listened to the TV. She would know how to talk normally by the time she started high school. So yeah, I feel it's weird that that's brought up. Yeah, unless she was talking about trauma from her past, but one of the the mean bitchy girls, the cliche bitchy mean girls,
yes,
who bullies her. She said something about fish or whatever, and then her friend says, "Oh, at least she's not doing the deaf voice," which implies, of course,
implies it was quite recent. Again, unless this is just a world where everybody's obsessed with what happened like 10 years ago.
Yeah, it's very weird. Yeah. So yeah. Also, my lip pick is Bernardo is very insistent about whether you can roll your R's.
Yeah.
And can you do that, Michael?
No. So. Bernardo. Oh wait, that was pretty good actually, wasn't it?
Do it again, John.
Oh no, now I've lost it. You know what? That was actually. See, I thought I wasn't going to be able to do it, and I kind of did a good job at it. But then like I lost it because I got excited. But I'm actually, the fact that I just did it pretty decent for a second there has got me. It's renewed my confidence in my ability to eventually do it. Yeah, I can't do that. Like, for some reason, it's like my tongue. Like, I can do it for a second, and then my tongue immediately tenses up.
Well, what can I say? I'm good with my tongue.
Right?
Yeah. So let's get into the plot or concept of this movie. So, CODA is about this girl called Ruby. She is the titular child of deaf adults and the only hearing member of her family. And that, I will say, that's an interesting premise for a movie. It's like, because I had never really thought of that concept before. And that is an interesting concept.
I will say, I suppose like it would have to imply, or would presumably imply, the existence of like deafness as something that can be inherited, which is probably a reality. It seems like I would assume we're not supposed to believe that independently all three people in this family got deaf for non-genetic reasons.
Yeah, no, obviously it's something that you can inherit, and she hasn't inherited it. That is an interesting premise. I do think that.
Yeah.
So she is a teenager who attempts to help her family's struggling fishing business while pursuing her own aspirations of being a singer. So she finds herself torn between pursuing her love of music and her fear of abandoning her parents. Wow, this feels like the most cliche, coming of age movie ever.
Yeah, like she wants to go out and do her own thing, but also her parents are like, she feels an obligation to her family.
Or her parents, she feels like she can't get past her parents, like her family.
Yeah.
Like they're dragging her down. She wants to do her own thing, and then that's where the conflict is. The only real difference is that they're deaf and she isn't. That's what makes this movie.
That's the hook.
That's
the bit that made the studio executive say, "You got yourself a movie."
Yeah, okay, but you're right. That is the hook, but it's also the only thing that separates it from just the most cliche coming of age movie you can think of. So yeah, does it do interesting things with that? Yes, at some points it does.
Yeah.
But yeah, just throughout the movie, you're thinking what happens. She hasn't found herself at the beginning of the movie. She's like, she wants to be a singer, but she doesn't have the confidence. Then she finds that confidence, and in the end, she succeeds because of the support of her family, who initially didn't want her to be a singer. I knew of this movie's reputation, like it was a feel-good movie. It wasn't that complicated. I knew that, but I was watching it kind of like you. I was like, wow, they really stick to the formula, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, they really do not go
really
off script.
On this.
Yeah, it's like they knew what they had to do and they just did it. And the only noticeable thing is that the main character is can hear and her parents can't.
So one thing they got in there that was just like, we got to have something.
So nothing surprised you about the plot then?
No, not really. I mean, like I would agree with you. There were like a few moments that I thought were. I mean, there's one moment that stands out towards the end, and I guess maybe you'll mention that, which I thought was like, okay, yeah, that's quite good. That's quite emotionally resonant and powerful. I like that. Apart from that, yeah, there was no moment where I was like, oh wow, yeah, that's, they're really, really, really getting me with this, really, affecting me.
Let's get into it. In Gloucester, on the northeast coast of Massachusetts.
So she's not even that far from Boston, because I was wondering how far she was.
Well, in America, everything is like.
That's true, yeah.
Yeah. But there's a big distance, I guess. And obviously, this gave me vibes of Manchester by the Sea.
Yeah, I was thinking that too, actually.
Set in a town in Massachusetts, and indeed, I looked on Wikipedia. Apparently, this was set in a similar place to Manchester by the Sea.
In fact, actually, I'm looking at the map because I thought I would, and they're literally like right next to each other.
Mm-hmm, yes. Oh, yeah. So the director received feedback from Kenneth Lonergan, who directed the 2016 film Manchester by the Sea. So they get on fishing and stuff.
Yeah,
because of course there's fishing in that movie. This movie has a very different tone to Manchester by the Sea, wouldn't you say?
Yes, yeah. Manchester by the Sea is. I was thinking Manchester by the Sea, because I always had that association, and I was like, wow, Manchester by the Sea was better.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Troy Kotsur doesn't kill his family.
Yeah, if he did, that would have made the film more interesting. Like, you can't argue with that.
If Troy Kotsur burned down his house and killed his family, and they couldn't hear because they were deaf.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe obviously, like they can smell. This is a stupid joke, but yeah. But yeah, that would have been a very interesting turn, and yeah, it would have probably made this movie better. But yeah. That would have been a 180. So in Gloucester, yeah, I've already done that. So there's this 17-year-old girl called Ruby Rossi, which is it's a very weird name. Ruby. It's
Rossi. Like a very Italian name. Hey, my name's Ruby Rossi.
Yeah, I mean, the Rossi is doing a lot of the lifting there, really.
I know, yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Is the only hearing member of her family. Her parents, Frank and Jackie, her older brother Leo, are all deaf. She assists with the family fishing business and plans to join it full-time after high school. So, Ruby is in this weird situation, I guess. She wants to have a normal life as a teenager in high school, but she can't really because of her family and their business. This is the issue I had right at the start of the movie, and this issue doesn't affect the rest of the movie as much. But these people, the parents, irrespective of being deaf, are just quite weird.
Yeah, that is a good point. Yeah,
so the trip to the doctor's office, and how they act around Ruby,
the whole they're really like the whole sex thing.
Yeah, when her dad is talking to Miles about wearing a condom or whatever.
Yeah.
It's
they would be embarrassing if they weren't deaf.
Exactly, that's the point I'm making. Like, these are not normal people, even if they were not deaf.
Like, this movie could have been like we've said, like, oh wow, it's this really powerful thing that they're deaf and all that kind of stuff. But at the same time, also the film wouldn't be that different in a way if they weren't deaf. Yeah,
and that's the thing. Look, obviously, it's part of the movie. It is a comedy movie, but the problem is when you title your movie CODA. I think it's going to be an interesting look at how a child of a deaf parent, tries to live their life and the challenges. But it's clearly not the case because these parents, it must be an abnormal experience for a coder in general, not just because of the fishing business, which I can accept. That makes sense. It's just these parents are like weird. Like they don't seem to be like that normal. And I get, being deaf, it doesn't mean that like you lose so the ability to have normal social interactions.
No, yeah, definitely. And I think like obviously, I mean, maybe you could say, well, like the fact they're deaf means that they want to keep to themselves because they don't, like it means that there's not as much that they can do. But yeah, again, I mean, things it's not like a good message because definitely it is true that definitely it is true that deaf people can live very kind of, integrated lives with the rest of society. And that, their whole being fishing nomads on the outskirts of society is very much extra.
Yeah, that surely they can appreciate, why their daughter would be embarrassed. Again, we'll get into how the deaf community reacted to this movie, because it's interesting to see. There's varied responses apparently. So one day at school, Ruby sees her crush Miles signing up for choir, so she impulsively signs up for choir too. The music teacher, Mr. Bernardo, or Mr. V, Villalobos, encourages Ruby to sing more. He assigns her to sing a duet with Miles, a boy she likes. The thing is, this movie, obviously, it is very cliche. And again, this is the start of it. It takes a normal cliche high school experience and you apply it to this CODA girl, and there just really isn't that much creativity with this part of the story. I mean, she's bullied for being different, and she's scared of performing, and she secretly has a crush on this boy, and they're conveniently paired up together. It's just so boring,
Yes, like everything. Like I thought the romance element was there's just nothing to it. It's not like this major thing. And like I mean, obviously you can tell that from how kind of contrived the argument between them is. That it's just like it's like, well, you got to have them get together, but like there's not going to be any difficulty to that, and then we've got to have them like get angry, and it's just like everything about it just feels like going through the motions.
Yeah, no, it is going through the motions. You're right, because we've seen this before, and it's just again it feels very very cheap. This storyline, no creativity there at all, and even with the teacher, Mr. V. Like, he's this inspirational teacher who's passionate about his work. Yeah. I don't know why he's teaching at this fucking rural bumfuck school in, like, northern Massachusetts or whatever. But, I don't know. I don't know why he'd be teaching there. It seems like he'd be a million miles away from that place, based on the fact that he went to Berkeley, which is apparently a good music school. He seems to be pretty good at his job. But whatever, I'm not sure. But yeah, I just want to contrast this to another coming-of-age story about a teenage girl. Ladybird. Yeah, well done. Do you want a cookie?
Yeah, I feel so proud of myself.
Yeah. Another teenage girl who, was graduating high school and wanted to go off to a particular college, Ladybird. That was, on the surface you may say, oh, that's similar, but if you watch Ladybird, you can tell it is not a cliche movie. It is not using this formula.
Yeah, Ladybird's so much more interesting.
It is so much more interesting, and it has a different, I guess, message as well. It's like, you gotta, you appreciate where you came from, rather than this, which is just it's a conflict between her and her family in the most like basic way possible.
Yeah. Wait, I want to. How long is Ladybird? Because oh my god. Okay, that's mental. Ladybird is 1 hour and 34 minutes. Because what I was about to say is I'm like, presumably Ladybird is like roughly the same length, and I was going to be like, it's crazy how much more Ladybird was able to do.
Yes.
Because you have like all of the characters feel developed, the relationships feel kind of complex and nuanced. And I was like, yeah, and they were able to do that in roughly the same time. But no, they're able to do it in 20 minutes less time.
Yes. So the thing is, with CODA, there's this 30-minute period where it just goes over the same beats again and again about the conflict between her and her family. Let's just talk about the subtext first, the obvious subtext, really. Because Mr. V encourages Ruby to audition for Berkeley, his alma mater. He offers her private lessons to prepare, as he's already tutoring Miles. So Ruby agrees, and this, I guess, is the very basic message of the movie, I guess. Ruby, she can hear properly, but she needs to find her voice, right? That's, again, it's...
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't... Does the movie go as far as saying there's no point in hearing unless you have something to say?
Well, isn't there is like a line about something like, he says you need to sing if you've got something to say, something along those lines?
Yeah, but it doesn't really go that far, because it's not really interested in that. That would be interesting if they delve deeper into that.
Yeah, they don't like explore really like about the kind of the nature of singing and, singing as a way to communicate kind of meaning and stuff.
He calls her Bob Dylan, and it's clear, like, she... does she actually have something to say? because she's very good at singing and she's passionate when she sings. That's clear. But like, you know, she's just singing other people's, you know, songs really, which you know. And I'm not sure that actually qualifies as something to say. You know, she doesn't come up with anything on her own. Which, again, is like, you know, if the movie really expanded on that theme, which it doesn't really. So, you know, you may be like, well, why are you criticising it for not expanding on the theme when it doesn't attempt to really go the distance with that theme? Well, you know, maybe if it did, it would be a better movie. You know, it would be more interesting. Yeah.
No, absolutely. Yeah. And I feel, one thing I was thinking that's relevant is like, I don't know if I'm being mean here. I feel like the whole kind of, like it's literally as simple as she kind of sings like this, and like that shows that like she's not confident, and then it's like he's like, oh, do it more, and then she just starts singing like this, and it's like literally, I don't know, it feels like very kind of, I guess, direct, like there's not really kind of much kind of subtlety to it.
Yes, so in these artistic movies, well, when a child is artistically gifted and the parents are often like blue collar, and the parents don't really want their child to be doing this artistic bullshit and want them to focus on, I don't know, like fucking being a plumber. I'm not sure, like some blue collar job, and this time it's being a fisherman. You know, so she has this talent that her parents have no appreciation for, and normally in movies that's because the parents, you know, they're blue collar people. They don't give a shit about that. They're just like, you know, watching like, I don't know, the game on Sunday. You know, drinking a few beers, but this time it's interesting because they really can't have appreciation for her singing. So I guess that's something. It's a very easy, but at the same time, it's a good opportunity to do this kind of movie because it's like, oh yeah, like she enjoys singing. The parents just can't appreciate that because they're deaf. So yeah, it's like the most literal version of the parents don't appreciate, you know, the passion of this child because they literally can't hear her sing.
Yeah.
And that pays off later on in the movie. But yeah, I think that definitely is, I don't know, I just feel like it's a great opportunity to do that. Someone's like, the light bulb, you know, went off in someone's head when they thought of that idea. It's like, oh yeah, it's a great idea. Yeah.
I think that does make sense. And again, it is, I mean, kind of an example of things being more direct, but I guess you could say like maybe it's a bit of like a good kind of a you know, more excusable because it's like almost makes the point more clear in a way.
It's just I think it's less cliche because it's like obvious because because it's a reality. It's like, yeah, they literally wouldn't have appreciation, you know, because they obviously can't hear. Anyway, so let's get into the conflict now, Michael, because again, this goes on for a while. So Frank and Leo struggle to make ends meet with the fishing business as new fees and sanctions are imposed by the local board. Frank announces he's going to start his own company to get around the new restrictions and intends to sell fish on his own and invites other local fishermen to join him. The family struggles to get the new business off the ground, relying on Ruby to spread the word. So this, you know, the girl has a family who is in trouble financially.
Yeah.
The realities of real life, you know, collide with her trying to live a normal high school life or the high school life she wants, you know. And yeah, Ruby's commitments to the family business cause her to be late to her lessons, and Mr. V grows irritated with Ruby's constant tardiness and chastises her for wasting his time and not caring enough about music. This is a big problem with the movie. It's just so explicitly done, you know, with Ruby not having enough time, you know. And again, when the news shows up, man, that is just the most like eye-rolling thing ever.
Yeah.
Like, Mr. V has made it clear, you've got to be on time for your lessons. And she's like, right, I'm not going to be late this time. I'm going to be on time. Oh no, the news has shown. Oh no.
And also, they didn't bring like an interpreter. Like, and you know, maybe it makes sense, but like I was thinking to myself, like, okay, like
that's a good point.
They're the news. They know they're interviewing some deaf people. You would think like the fact they're deaf would be a big part of the story. Mm-hmm. So it's like a bit funny the suggestion that the news could be left in the lurch. Like, hey, you know, we're gonna go interview these deaf people who've started a business. You show up and it's like, oh no, what are we gonna do? Yeah. They're deaf.
Yeah. What a crazy coincidence that they, you know, the news has arrived and she's got to make a choice, and it is like a sitcom choice, you know. It is like, or it's like a, you know, like a cliche schlocky movie, you know, like the choice. Oh, do you go with your parents or do you go with, you know, your dreams, your aspirations? You know, what do you do here? You got a choice, and again, maybe perhaps it could be done well if you set it up, but it's the fact that like, okay, I'm definitely going to be on time for this lesson. Oh, God, no, you need to be here because the news are showing up and interviewing us. it's just very blunt and clear cut, and it's not done in a clever way at all, is it? To show the conflict,
Yeah, also, like, I mean, again, like, it's the fact that, like, they had to set up beforehand that she'd been late, but, like, all the other times she'd been late, like, there was no real logic to it, and, like, that whole conflict really did feel, like, incredibly forced, where she's, like, it's almost like she was pretending, she's just like, I don't even care, blah, 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 and it's just like, oh, God, like, she has to be kind of, what's the word, like, angsty, I guess, and it's like, you have to do that because it's a coming-of-age movie.
Yeah, it's like, the movie, the conflict just feels so forced because of that. And it's just like the movie, it's like, well, this has to happen. So I guess, well, what's the best way to communicate that she's struggling and she's, she can't do both at the same time? Well, she's just late for Mr. V's lessons.
Yeah, exactly.
Not that she shows up on time and is like tired. That would be perhaps better.
Yeah.
She's just late. And then of course the news van is the showing up and she's unable to go. That's the cherry on top.
Yeah,
really.
I also liked how much of it was basically just like, it was almost like the different parts of her life taking turns to be angry at her, where it's like she's doing the music, so the family's angry at her, and then she's going to do, she's going to help her family, so the music guy's angry at her, and then she goes, and it's just like basically just anything she does, like one half of her life is going to be angry at her, so it's kind of just like, great, love that.
It's not very nuanced. You could do this in a more nuanced way, for sure, and the movie just decides not to do it. Let's just make it as blatant and blunt as possible. She's struggling because she doesn't have the time, rather than maybe the emotional toll it's taking on her. Perhaps that would be better if you communicated that. But anyway, so the conflict continues because, while fishing one day, when Ruby is off swimming with Miles, Frank and Leo sail with a federal fishing observer on board, who doesn't know in advance Frank and Leo are deaf. Think they would, but whatever.
Yeah.
Boat is intercepted by the Coast Guard after failing to respond to ship horns and radio calls. Frank and Leo are fined and have their fishing licenses suspended for negligence. When they tell Ruby that she should have been on the boat with them, she tells them she can't always interpret for them, and this was not her fault. Again, so this happens again. It's very easy to see the family needs her, but she doesn't want to be fishing. She wants to have a normal high school life. And yeah, I made a good joke here, Michael. Do you want to hear it?
Yes, I would love to.
You don't need an interpreter to figure out the conflict in the movie, do you?
Oh, I like that. That's very good.
So, because it's so fucking obvious. Like, they really spell it out as clearly as anything. Yeah,
I would agree with you. Like, again, it's like an example of just like whenever she does anything, it's almost like comedic. It's like whenever she does anything, things have to go wrong. And that's like it's just like the rules.
Yeah, and that's not a very smart way to do it, is it? Like, if you showed like the emotional toll again of her, and maybe you could have something like this happen, where where the choice is really spelled out for her, like she can't do one or the other. But the thing is, what you've done before with the news van showing up, and what you've done before with her being late to Mr. V's lessons, it just feels like, oh my god, like, okay, we get it, like she's struggling. So yeah, it is, and it happens for a while as well. So this part of the movie is really frustrating, I'd say. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like, you say this part of the movie, I feel like this was so much of the movie.
Yeah, well, it's like half an hour, maybe it's longer, maybe it's like 45 minutes,
but yeah, absolutely.
Half. Yeah.
And obviously, like I said, like, again, I kind of already mentioned the romantic stuff is also very contrived.
Yes, I think it is contrived. I guess, they're jumping into a pool or whatever that's meant to, symbolically show them, taking risks or whatever.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, probably, which is, great. It feels like a very standard coming of age movie kind of thing to do.
Yeah, go swim in the old swimming hole.
Yeah, and jump in from a big height. Right.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, I will say this is one of the positives I'll say about the movie. You do get a sense of how tough life would be if you are deaf.
It's true.
And how tough being deaf is in general. So that is good from this movie. The older brother's frustrations show that he doesn't want to seem helpless. He is constrained by this disability, of course. He has resentment, of course, towards Ruby.
Like when he specifically gets angry, you do see those moments, and they do kind of work in terms of making the relationship feel a little bit more kind of difficult and interesting in that way.
So you can see, how the deaf community could like that, because it's a portrayal which would undoubtedly show their frustrations with life in general. People think they're helpless, they don't want to be helpless, etc. But anyway, let's get on to this section in Wikipedia. Deaf responses from the deaf community. Deaf viewers had varied reactions to the film. On the positive side, they praised the casting and performances of the deaf actors and found the depiction of deaf characters self-sufficient and sexually active people to be in welcome contrast to previous depictions on screen. This guy said, Delbert Wetter, vice chair of
wow.
nonprofit Respectability, said, "After seeing so many stories where people with disabilities are depicted as helpless, forlorn souls needing to be rescued, it's so refreshing to see a story with deaf characters that are small business owners and leaders in their fishing community with depth and nuance that rival and even exceed that of their hearing counterparts in the story." But yeah, I like that these characters were sexual beings. Deaf and disabled people are often neutered or virginal in movies or books.
Okay.
That's extremely boring and inaccurate. Yeah, again,
although to be fair, like they go kind of in the other direction.
On the more critical side, Jenna Beacom, a sensitivity reader and young adult author, found much of the film misrepresented, especially deaf people's competence and ability to thrive in 2021, and said that while she's thrilled that the movie exists, I guess that is the maybe underlining point, that this movie exists at all is good for this community, in the sense of contributing to more deaf representation and hopefully more opportunities for even better representation. She was very, very disturbed by how negatively the movie portrays the deaf and CODA experiences. I guess, CODA kids must have a tough time, you know?
Yeah.
But maybe this goes overboard?
I could agree with that. So like it's kind of making it seem like this is just a constant kind of chore to exist in this way, which obviously is kind of actually not necessarily a great message to send.
A deaf parent of a singer herself, she said she found the film's assumption that being deaf means you can't enjoy music or understand anyone else's enjoyment to be unfounded. She also said, "I actually think the story of a first-gen college student, just without the music, she could have been studying anything, is more compelling anyway. I don't think that we need the music part for this to be an interesting story." Yeah, but that's the hook, really. That's the thing that sells the movie. That's the interesting part. The premise, I guess. The premise could have just been CODA, because that is inherently interesting. But the music part, that gives it that extra bit of
even though I don't really like the music that much. Like, what even was the duet? Was that like an original song? Because I was wondering if it had like an Oscar kind of thing to do with it.
Other viewers also criticised the portrayal of deaf characters' inability to appreciate music as a trope common in films featuring deaf characters. Okay, so maybe when I said, hey, that appreciation is logical, maybe I was being offensive. I'm not sure, but I know they literally can't hear music. That obviously doesn't change, but maybe they can appreciate it. Maybe there's a difference between that. Leonard Davis, a CODA and disability scholar, wrote, "The genre of films is glued to a different reality. It's as if birds were obsessed with making movies in which humans were miserable about their inability to fly." The film's depiction of hearing a child interpret for her parents, even in settings where professional interpreters would be required by the Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990, such as a court hearing of medical appointments, received widespread criticism as being misrepresentative. I guess so. That would be the case, right? Yeah, because they wouldn't need her, but she was needed in those hearings to show that the responsibility that she has.
I was like in general, like I was kind of thinking that, like it seemed like a lot of the time, like this is a world where society is completely incapable of accommodating deaf people, which I was thinking seemed unlikely. Obviously it relates to kind of the news thing, but other examples too, where I feel like deaf people, can actually get by.
Yeah,
this film's a very good counter
specifically.
To the Sound of Metal guy.
Yeah, specifically with the Disabilities Act, medical appointments, court hearings. That's you're saying, the news people, they probably would have had someone, but they're not legally required. The doctor and the
whereas
courts
they're
are legally required. So she literally did not have to be there. So that's a good example of maybe of the movie just misrepresenting how tough it is to be deaf and how tough it is for CODA children. Specifically,
I would say the big problem with this movie is that it maligns the ability, it maligns the efforts of the powers that be to accommodate differently abled people.
Okay, good stuff. But yeah, in general, I think the mixed responses make sense. Maybe this, because I didn't know some of the stuff these deaf people are saying.
I would expect deaf people to have mixed responses.
Yeah, I guess I just assume, this movie must be like accurate to the experience of being deaf. But at the same time, it's like, no, perhaps not. It's like that guy who said, hey, birds don't make movies about humans being unable to fly. Like, it's not a constant source of aggro in their life like this movie does portray. This movie, it's a movie, so it has to kind of portray that, But yeah, it's not that real. And to be honest, most movies aren't real, so,
most movies aren't real.
Most movies contain a lot of stuff which just isn't accurate, basically. Because that's...
Yeah, because they got to, get the drama.
Yeah, to increase the drama, exactly. And this is clearly one of those cases. Anyway, so Ruby announces to the family that she is foregoing college and will join the business full-time. Her parents are supportive, but Leo reacts angrily. He's angry because like she's doing it because she has to.
Yeah.
The family
Makes him feel like what's the word I'm looking for? A burden.
Yeah, well, the family can't rely on him. Like they have to rely on her, and he clearly doesn't feel. He feels diminished, doesn't he? Which is something they don't really go into because afterwards everything's okay. So they don't really tie up that loose end, perhaps. Anyway, Ruby's family attends her choir recital, and while they can't hear her sing, they notice the positive reception from the surrounding audience. So this is a really great choice where we hear what Frank hears specifically, and it's just silence. The movie, we hear what's going on, the actual sound in the concert hall, and then we hear from Frank's point of hearing.
Yes, point of ear. Point of ear,
yes, exactly. And it's, of course, just silence because he is deaf, and it's a great view into his life. And it is great. I like that choice because it's sudden. It hasn't happened until now, and it really catches you off guard. And that's great because it's like, oh yeah, like we've been hearing for the last like hour and 10 minutes or whatever, and all of a sudden we're just hearing just nothing, and it's like, oh yeah, this must be, imagine if you were deaf, like this would not be good, it would just you can really appreciate how lucky you are to have the ability to hear.
Yes.
So that's good, but then also seeing other people react to her singing. And that's what Frank is looking at. He can't tell if she's doing a good job, but then he sees other people react to her singing. That's a wonderful choice because
I like that.
It is realistic, and it is also eye-opening, or I guess ear-opening, for him. And they appreciate what she can do, and it works. It works very well because in movies where parents don't get the kid, the parent may see them perform. And at a concert hall like this for the first time, and they have a new appreciation. But it's always, well, why didn't you support them in the first place? Because you can tell they're talented. These people can't tell that their daughter's talented. They can't tell.
Yeah,
that.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and so there is a legitimate reason here why up until this point they didn't appreciate her music, and now they have a newfound appreciation, which is again quite logical. And it's very well done. It's a very clever idea, to have to show it as well by having them look around and see other people's reactions. I really like that, and of course it's inherently emotional as well, at the same time. So yeah, I'm a big fan of this scene. I really like this scene.
Yeah, I like that scene too. I mean, obviously, like, it makes sense. Like, I don't think it's necessarily that inventive to have, like, a scene where you see things from a deaf person's perspective, because obviously, I mean, literally the last film we saw about deaf people with Sound of Metal.
That's not the inventive part.
Yeah. But yeah, obviously, I agree with you that the decision to show from where he gains an appreciation for the talent that his daughter has, seeing other people's reaction, that makes sense. Of course, they do actually. Now I think about it, they do actually show that he does like some music because of vibration. Well, sorry, I mean, obviously that's something that comes up later. Now I think about it.
Yeah, no, it did come up before. I think, to be fair.
Yeah.
But that is the inventive part of him seeing other people's reactions and then appreciating it. Like, I like that. That's
I guess like there's something kind of like good and maybe even powerful, if you like, about realizing there is something to be appreciated that you yourself can't appreciate.
Yes, and seeing how your daughter affects other people as well. Yeah, it's not just you. Look at how she's affecting people who aren't biased, who aren't...
who aren't too lazy to actually listen.
Yes, exactly, yes. And so it's like, these people like what my daughter's doing. That clearly means that she is talented, and it's not just my own personal, like, wow, I can't believe my little baby girl's out there singing so well. Oh, I should have listened before, wow. So it's more powerful than just that you'd get in, like, a cliche scene, which of course this movie is just kind of reinventing, which I think is pretty cool. It's using the disability to I guess create interesting scenes like that, and this happens later as well, when Frank asks Ruby to sing for him while he feels her vocal cords growing emotional. It's another very emotional scene. It's meant to like tug on the heartstrings, but I like it. It's a clever thing to do as well. And again, you're using this disability to create emotional moments that you wouldn't see in other coming-of-age movies, would you? Like,
exactly, yeah. Like, I like that, and obviously, I think this for me was my favorite scene. It was the only moment really where I felt like kind of actually emotional on kind of a more visceral level. Because obviously, with the previous scene, like I was like able to appreciate it intellectually, but this scene, I was like, okay, yeah. Obviously, there was a limit there because I wasn't that overall kind of invested in the whole film emotionally. But even with me not really caring about the rest of the film, that moment I was like, okay, yeah, I can see this is quite powerful and is affecting me at least a little bit, which is good.
Yes. So the dad, of course, is played by Troy Kotzer.
Yes.
And he, but that is a very good acting performance in that scene and throughout the movie. He won Best Supporting Actor, thoroughly deserved. Michael, would you say?
Yeah. Again, I mean, obviously, it's the old classic. Comparing him. There's a question of was he the best out of everybody? But there's the alternative question of, well, was it a good performance in itself? And it definitely was a good performance in itself. Was it the best? Not really sure, but definitely a really good performance.
I think it was pretty damn good. I think he played his character very, very well. So the entire family then drives to Boston with Ruby for her Berkeley audition because they support her now, having heard her sing. It's you tick that bit of the checklist off, like the formula is progressing. We've got to the next stage. Before her audition, she sees Miles, who reveals that he failed at his audition and wishes her luck. Bad boy. Why did Miles fail, Michael?
Because he was not the main character. No, so that it could create an issue where there's some melodrama.
No. You fucking idiot. You haven't been paying attention to his character throughout the movie, have you?
Because his parents put too much pressure on him.
Well,
Well, that is something that happens in the movie. His parents keep put a lot of pressure on him.
Does he say that?
He does. He says something like his family are like super into music, and he's like, "Oh yeah, my family really wants me to be really good," or like something along the lines of like being pressured into it. I'm pretty sure he says that.
Yeah, I think he does say pressure. Yeah. The point is that I was going to say his parents don't support him.
Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah.
That is the difference. His parents, he says, his parents are always fighting. It's clear he has an unhappy home life because they're not there for him, and that is the difference. That's why he fails, despite being musically talented and from a musical background. So yeah, it shows the importance of family, Michael, which is again a big theme in this movie, which is very obvious. And
yes, it's about family. That's what makes it so important,
and that's what matters. Yeah, you stick together, you support each other. That's what it's about. It's like the old Carrie Fisher quote, but like unironically, that's what this movie is saying. Yes. So this is great. So Miles failed, of course, because he didn't have his family supporting him. Again, very blatant. The most important thing, you got to support each other, which is why Ruby's family sneak up to the balcony where Mr. V comes to accompany her on the piano. He has to show up. Yes. In spite of the general prohibition of outside attendees for auditions, Ruby is nervous and unprepared at first, but after Mr. B deliberately makes a mistake on his accompaniment, she's allowed to start again and gains confidence when she sees her family. I like how Wikipedia just spelled it out for you. It's just like, they literally put that. She gains confidence when she sees her family. It's so fucking obvious, man. It's just, it's just, you gotta hit the right notes for this movie, and that's another,
Yeah, it reminds me, I think YMS has made a joke about that. Like, it's like they replaced the script with the Wikipedia summary.
Yes.
Like, she gains confidence when she sees her family, and that's it.
Yeah, that's what happens. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I will say I thought it was, like, vaguely interesting, the whole, like, he pretends to fail so that she gets another chance. It wasn't like that big of a deal, like it wasn't a major moment, but I was just like, oh, that happened. That's slightly more interesting than just...
I don't think it is, because it has to set up, she can't just succeed right away.
Yeah, that's it, yeah.
Yeah, it has to be a build-up. So, yeah. Ruby signs along... yes, she does. I thought that said sings at first. I was like, oh, I made a mistake there. But no, Ruby signs along.
Oh, yeah, this bit was... I don't know why. Like, this bit was fine, but like at the same time, I was also like, oh, no, I can't. It still makes me cringe a bit.
While singing Both Sides Now by Joni Mitchell. I don't know if that song has a particular meaning.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I know that weird kid in About a Boy liked Joni Mitchell, which I read that book. But that's whenever someone says Joni Mitchell, I'm reminded of About a Boy.
Yes.
And like the weird kid and her weird mother. And his weird mother, sorry.
Yeah, and sexy Hugh Grant.
Yeah. But
it's not all bad.
I read the book, though, so...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think
Have you never seen the film?
I think we went through this on the Pope is Gay.
That's crazy.
I haven't.
Oh, that's interesting. Imagine reading a book and not seeing a film.
Maybe we saw the first, 30 or 40 minutes in English class once. I can't remember. But yeah.
See, I was thinking this would be English class, because I was thinking, why would you be motivated to watch that, read that book in particular?
Well, yeah, obviously it was English class. Obviously. What do you think I am?
Mean, some people have read books.
Not me. Who the fuck do you think I am? I
only watch movies. A nerd.
I know, right? I only watch cool movies like CODA.
Yes.
Yes.
More like CODA.
Yes. So So the family couldn't understand what she's singing because she's signing. So the adjudicators notice the family and summarize the particular family situation. I love that. Oh, sorry, surmise the particular family situation. They're like, you know what? We shouldn't properly allow this, but this is a feel-good movie. We're at the end of the movie, and it shows that the characters have come a long way. This is a symbolic thing, so we'll allow it. You can continue having your family here because it's basically.
I also like how they did a montage, by the way. Like, that is, I don't know. It's fine, but like, it's a montage.
Fucking, again, you're talking about tugging on the heartstrings. They really went for it at the end of that montage, man. That montage is just meant to like leave you bawling on the floor, which I
actually think I clicked off the I think I clicked off the screen while leaving it still playing during the montage, because like I was watching the montage, I was aware the film was almost over, and you know when like a film's almost over and you're kind of thinking about like what you're going to be doing after the film's over. So I just like clicked off the screen in the middle of the montage.
Yeah, I remember YMS. He called this movie manipulative. I think that's the word he used, and this is definitely what he was talking about at the end. It's like there's no reason for a montage here. There's no reason, like you can have a montage.
YMS would have hated this movie.
No, he said he did hate it, but then again, he thought the director, I think, really cared about the the characters and cared about the subject. So he hated it and he liked it at the same time. But
kind of had like a respect for it on some level.
Yes, exactly. Yes, but he did say this was manipulative, and yes, it is very like, oh yeah, we're gonna get you now. We've had this emotional climax, and the montage of her singing in the background, and everything's all right. with the family situation getting better, with the death. Everybody can speak sign language now. And they're more welcome into this community, into the fishing community, and she gets into college, and everybody's happy, and it's just such an uplifting, crowd-pleasing, emotional ending. And then, God, this movie, I would have said it's gone too far with that kind of shit.
Yeah.
But then it really, I guess, jumped the shark is the correct phrase to use, because at the end of the movie, when the family is saying goodbye and she's running off. No, she's driving.
Oh yeah.
She's driving off to Berkeley. She has to stop the car and get out and go to run and hug her family once again, just for one last time. Yeah. Oh my God, I can't believe they did that.
So ridiculous. Yeah.
I can't believe they did that. Oh my God, I couldn't believe it, man. I was like, no, oh my God, this movie just really hammers it home at the end. It really wants to just it is. Perhaps emotionally manipulative. That is a cynical way to view it.
Yes.
Wouldn't you say, Michael?
Yeah, like definitely. And when that happened, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, that's something. That's a decision. That's a choice. But yeah, like it feels cliche and manipulative and just not great.
Just unnecessary. And it's just like, okay, you can pretty much defend every choice up to this movie. That choice, though, is just like, nah, you can't defend that. Indefensible. Absolutely indefensible. And I wouldn't defend everything as we've been through, but that right there, you've got no defense. Why are you putting that in? I know what you're trying to do. Just no need for that to happen. Anyway, so let's conclude now, Michael. Do you want to go first?
Yes, why not? So, okay, I'll say one thing about this film. Of certainly all of the Oscar Best Picture winners of like the last decade, probably my lifetime, but let's limit it. The last decade, this is the Best Picture winner that I would have the least interest in ever watching again, which is already pretty crazy. But then becomes even more crazy when I realize that I think I've watched every single previous Best Picture winner more than once already. So I'm talking, I would rather watch like any of the previous Best Picture winners like for a third or fourth time before I watch this for a second time, because there's just nothing on offer. Having said that, and I think we've spoken about the negative things, it's worth noting it's still like a competent movie. Like this isn't like a movie where you're like, oh God, they've made so many mistakes and it's so
it's
amateur.
Incredible. You're saying this about a Best Picture winner.
I know, yes, I know, yeah, it's wild.
It's not incompetent, great.
Yeah, I think like I guess I'll have to say it's technically not bad, but it's very cliche, which is about as bad as a not bad movie can be. So I'm going to give it a low 5 out of 10.
Oh, wow. Okay, you're going to be more harsh than me.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. I think this is like a prototypical 6 out of 10 kind of movie. Because that's the thing, it is inoffensive. Well, apart from if you're deaf, perhaps. And it is, I guess, cheesy. That is a word to describe it. It is, again, emotionally manipulative, perhaps. And it loves to tug on the heartstrings. It is formulaic. It is cliche. And all of that would drag the movie down to your rating again, because it's not like incompetent or whatever. So it has to. The minimum you could probably give it is a 5 because of that. But again, it does have a couple of nice moments which I like. It's like, oh, you're making use of the premise of the situation in a creative way, and you're going because this movie is very uncreative in general, but sometimes it is. So again, that bumps it up to a 6 perhaps, and you got some really good performances in there. But yeah, 6 out of 10 is not a good rating for Best Picture.
Yeah.
Anyway, what are we reviewing next week, Michael?
Well, next week, how long you got? We're reviewing. We're doing our Oscar roundup of 4 movies. Is it going to have to be so? There were 8 movies nominated for Best Picture last year, right?
We've already reviewed Don't Look Up.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. Okay, yeah, I got you. Okay, okay, that makes sense. And anyway, so what we're looking at is Nightmare Alley, King Richard, Drive My Car, and West Side Story.
Yes, we are going to be reviewing all 4 of those movies and ranking all the nominees from last year's Best Picture nominees in our final Oscars roundup video. Yes, and we're going to give like 15-minute summary.
Yeah,
we're not going to delve into the detail.
Yes,
obviously.
That makes sense.
Yes. Yeah, so join us next week for that. But we have been reviewing CODA. Yeah, perhaps the most forgettable Oscars winner ever of Best Picture, and probably deservedly so. Join us next week for those 4 movies and our rankings. Michael, who have you been?
I've been Michael.
I've been Luke. Thanks for listening, if you can, and goodbye.
Goodbye.
Sorry.